And now, conventional medicine has discovered that if you artificially change a prostate-disabled man, that is, artificially turn him into a female, they have less frequent bone osteolysis in the pelvis, in the pubic bone. Of course, there is a certain logic to this. Because the female man has no libido. His libido is in the basement, so he is no longer interested in sex. And someone who doesn't want to and can't, has fewer problems than someone who wants to and can. I once talked to a man who had been taking estrogen for 10 years, because of prostate removal. And he told me he used to have a lot of hair, and it's all gone. In the meantime, he has a bosom. He doesn't care about women at all anymore, and he's about 60. And he doesn't really have any big problems, of course. You could say he is healthy. But is he really? He is not a man. He is not a woman either. That was just an example. Hormones play a role, everywhere. And very intensively in the territorial area. We have the female territorial area on the left, and the male territorial area on the right. It's the same for men and women. The difference has to do with hormones. For example, if the right-handed woman has a sexual conflict, she is male. She's not ovulating, so she's male. And, if I fill her up with estrogens, stuff her full, then I force her to be a woman. And I blow up her conflict, so it's gone. I can resolve her conflict through hormones, but if the conflict was active for 9 months she dies of a pulmonary embolism. The same with the man. With the man, a single territorial loss conflict is enough, and he is a softie. Female and gay. If I now fill this softie with testosterone, I force him to be a man. I blow up his conflict. But beware, over 9 months of the conflict load, and he is dead. He is guaranteed not to survive the heart attack. So, we can do a lot with hormones. We can even solve conflicts with hormones. But the therapist has to know what he is doing. Otherwise, he is a sorcerer's apprentice. And I can even reperceive conflicts, so that they bounce back and forth. When my hormones change, my perception of conflict changes. The conflicts can dissolve, and new conflicts can come in. And they can jump back and forth. Here is one example of adding a conflict. The female has no territorial behavior. When the female neighbor puts the trash can in the driveway, she doesn't even notice. But when the female neighbor puts the trash can in the male granny's driveway, the granny says, she does that deliberately, to annoy me. Every day. Then the grandma suddenly has a problem with this. This is an example of adding a conflict, of something that was not there before, simply by becoming male. An example of reperceiving. The thief comes through the window. The grandpa with female perception gets defensive with scare fright, oops the thief, and pulls the blanket over his head. The granny in male perception, with territorial fear, gets on the offensive. With the broom, she attacks the burglar. With her male territorial fear. Here the conflict is reframed. And another example of resolving a conflict. The typical sexual conflict in childhood is often the exhibitionist. It's the confrontation involving sex to a non-mature child. And when this woman, with a sexual conflict from childhood comes into menopause, she becomes a man. With a man, when the exhibitionist flashes him, the man says, "Mine is bigger, get lost." Yet now, this woman comes into menopause and can no longer feel the conflict from childhood. So she resolves the conflict from childhood, only due to the hormonal changes. Because she can't feel it anymore. For the granny, the exhibitionist is not an issue. A fitting joke. Grandma leaves the supermarket. The exhibitionist opens his coat in front of her, says Granny, "Ah, now I know what I forgot, the shrimp." So for the granny, the exhibitionist is not an issue. The man is typically the hunter, the woman the gatherer. You can still see this in the handbags. Even female men like to carry handbags.
Germanische Heilkunde is considered the greatest discovery in the history of humanity, by those people who have understood its underlying principle. While classical medicine is based on more than 5,000 hypotheses, the Germanische Heilkunde can be considered as the only medicine, which is scientifically verifiable. With Germanische Heilkunde, for the first time in the history of humanity as we know it, there is a medicine with which any patient case can be reproduced in a strictly scientific manner. More than 30 different universities have already confirmed this in the past. Nevertheless, the discovery of Dr.Hamer has been suppressed and denigrated for over 30 years. Take your health into your own hands, and learn about Germanische Heilkunde, while you are still healthy. Helmut Pilhar, one of 3 lecturers, officially appointed by Dr. Hamer for Germanische Heilkunde, offers you an extensive and complete seminar collection for this purpose, which is now also to be translated into the English language. This knowledge will change your view of conventional medicine forever. You can find a direct link to Helmut Pilhar's seminar videos in the description below this video.